Hey guys, I'm just chilling out, playing with a pair of knives. You would think that this is the same knife, wouldn't you? Well, no, because it's got two different brand names on there. And why is that? Well, Chinese knives are often made at OEM companies where they got the same basic knife and they end up getting branded for a number of different companies, or they get no branding on it at all and just get sold under various white box or brown box, OEM box kind of names. So I've got these two knives. This one's HX Outdoors, which has a very good reputation with me. And this one's a Kubey, which I don't have a reputation yet. I haven't decided what I think of this brand. This is probably the third Kubey knife I've had in my hands. And, well, what you're going to see on this review is going to let you in on what I think of this brand a little bit more. And it's not as good as it could be. And my opinion of HX Outdoors continues to be quite good. So we're going to look at the differences between these two knives, and we're going to do sort of a basic evaluation of it as well, a basic review of this knife in case you choose to buy one, and then you'll be able to easily decide which one of these two you would prefer. So at first glance, these two knives look very similar, and they are very similar in most ways. The HX Outdoors version I got through GearBest. I believe I bought this one myself. And at GearBest, the regular, or the price right now of this one is $17.64. That's US, 23.18 Canadian, 14.70 euros, and 12.82 pounds sterling. This one by Kubey, I got through Amazon.com, and I won't put all the prices down, but you can get this one. I think you can only find it with the black handle scales right now, but this knife by Kubey for $15.99. So it's like $1.65 US less than the HX Outdoors. Don't let that be your conclusion, because if that's your conclusion, saying, well, I'll take the one that's $1.64 less, you might be making a mistake. So stick around for what we're going to talk about here. Let's just take a little bit of the looking at the differences between these two knives. If you just take a look at this part, there's not much at the leading edge coming over. That's the difference. They don't tell you what steel the Kubey is. And if they don't tell you, you have to wonder. You can't say that it's going to be the exact same steel, because if they don't say, you don't know. Because they could make the same shape, the same design and everything out of two different steels. It's very easily done. One little issue that I have, GearBest says that this knife is AUS 8, and yet the knife itself says it's CR18 MOV, and it says that right there. So I'm going to assume that it is 8CR13 MOV, and chances are very good that this is 8CR13 MOV as well. You can tell that they were done at different times or different runs or whatever. You can see that chamfer up here is much larger on the HX Outdoors than it is on the Kubey, but the general shape of it is identical. The thickness of the steel between these two is very similar, but it's not the same. Sort of to go along with the size of this chamfer, the larger one comes a little thinner on the spine than the other one. So there's some differences there. Another difference is, look at this HX Outdoors, and they've milled a little bit on the side of the release for the liner lock. That just helps your thumb get in there a little bit better to release the lock. And the liner on the Kubey is just, it's been stamped out with a tiny bit of jimping in there. And so it doesn't have that on there. And yeah, you can feel it. This is more comfortable to release. You can get better engagement with your thumb than you can on the Kubey. What else do we have here? Well, we've got these D pillars, look a little bit different. The Kubey's a little more decorative. but they are at least D-pillars that don't spin freely, so that's a good thing. And then we've got this pocket clip. It's right side tip down only, and it's basically identical on both of them, so nothing there. The G10 has the exact same pattern milled into it. You've got the same back spacer, and when I took them apart, they've got the exact same, very little skeletonizing in them. But here's another difference. When you look at the liners, check this out. The relief cutout right here on the HX Outdoors, it took a little bit of effort for them to go in with the tool, come along, and then come back up. Whereas on the Kubey, they just put it against a tool, and it's kind of messy how they made it. They just took a little bit of the steel away, and you know, it's just not as cleanly done or done as well. If you just look at it with the naked eye, it doesn't look as good either, and it's actually a little bit sharp to the touch right there where they ground it. Whereas the HX Outdoors, you know, everything's been nicely milled and properly done. So that's a really good thing. So we've noticed a few touches already on the Kubey that are subpar. What else do we have here? Well, if you take the knives apart, I'll show you the insides, you're going to find out that the HX Outdoors has got steel ball bearings and the Kubey has got washers. Thankfully, it's got some very thin phosphor bronze washers and then the black Teflon washer, one of those on each side. But that's not as nice as ball bearings. And you can feel it on the action most definitely. It's much better on the HX Outdoors than it is on the Kubey. And then the detent on the Kubey is not great. It's okay. It's good enough that you can use the flipper, but just barely. I have to focus, I have to concentrate, and then it just barely makes it to the locked position. Whereas the HX Outdoors, the detent is perfect. Don't have to think. You can just see it and hear it, how it just flew out and was a rock solid deployment of the blade. So if you watch them next to each other, whoops, just barely makes it out. And I am trying with the same kind of pressure, and the HX Outdoors is great. So the detent's not as good on the Kubey either. And now you've basically seen the summary of the differences. So for $1.65 less, I don't think the Kubey is worth it. I would much rather go to GearBest and get the HX Outdoors. Let's give you a few of the specs. I'll run through those rather quickly, and then we will summarize for shutting this video down. Oh, I didn't do the total. Well, I'll put it on the screen. There's one of the measurements I didn't convert. But the blade length on the cutting edge is the same thing, 9.4 centimeters, 3.7 inches. The blade thickness is just over 3.4 centimeters, and the Kubey is just under 3.4 centimeters. That's about 0.134 inches. The blade depth is 2.61 centimeters. That's 1.03 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, well, the Kubey is 0.65, and that's 0.0255. And the HX Outdoors is 0.58, which is 0.025. So thinner behind the grind on the Kubey, I'm sorry, on the HX Outdoors. It's better than the Kubey that way as well. The handle length is 11.86 centimeters, 4.67 inches. The grip area is 9.8 centimeters, 3.86 inches. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, is 1.4 centimeters, that's 0.55 inches. And it's shaped with a ridge going down the middle, so it's thinner at the edges than it is at the middle. So it's more like half an inch at the spine and at the belly. And then the handle depth is largest right here in the middle, 2.65 centimeters, 1.04 inches. The total length of these knives is 21 centimeters, and the inches is on the screen. These things have different weights as well. The HX Outdoors weighs a little bit more. It's 150 grams, 5.3 ounces, and the Kubey is 136 grams, 4.8 ounces. And I talked about the prices already. Fit and finish, HX Outdoors wins. Blade steel, well, we don't know what the Kubey is, so that's a, hopefully it's 8CR13. I do like 8CR13. It's a good steel. The pocket clip being tipped down, yeah, I don't mind it at all, but some people don't like it. What I don't like about the pocket clip is how much knife is left showing when you put it in the pocket. So let's take a look at that. Ugh, so it took a little bit to get it going. You see how close that is. It needs to be bent up a little bit. The Kubey is done exactly the same. It needs, I need to put my pliers on there and bend it up a little bit, but I wanted to show you what it was like from the factory on both of them. They are a little bit tricky to get on until you get it to lift up. There you go. And then you can put it on. So you do have to adjust that. And then you're left with about an inch sticking out, about almost two and a tiny bit centimeters sticking out of the pocket. Not great, but not terrible, and I don't really mind it that way either. So that's basically the knife, and that's the nutshell review of them both. If I was to buy one, I would suggest that the HX Outdoors variety is better than the Kubey brand. Little things like just looking at these handle scales. What do you see? You see that the Kubey has, a little bit, it's not clean. The cuts have a little bit of dust or something in them. And the HX Outdoors, nice clean milled lines in there, as you see them next to each other. Maybe the material that this is not as good a G10. The quality, it's probably not authentic G10. It's probably a Chinese variant of it, and it's just not quite up to snuff here as compared with the HX Outdoors. I took both of them apart. They both came apart fairly well. No problems there. The screws held up. They didn't strip. They didn't have any problems that way. They are good-looking knives. That Kubey is frustrating me to no end. I had this Kubey for about a month and a half before I got the HX Outdoors, and I almost was just not going to review it. I was just going to throw it away, and then I saw this show up at GearBest, and I made sure I would get it because I wanted to do this comparison video. I've come to the conclusion that I like HX Outdoors even more, especially when you do a comparison like this. You get to see things in a different light. And it looks to me like Kubey is one of those rebrander brands that tries to cut corners. And they make their money that way. Whereas HX Outdoors, does the little things, this milling here, better milling here. They do the little things to make their product a little bit better. And that's why I have much more respect for HX Outdoors. That being said, I still might review some more Kubey knives. Who knows? There's a lot of them to be found on Amazon.com. And if you would like to get one of these knives, you've got both places. I'll put links to both of them down below in the description. And you can make your own choice. I won't tell you what to do. You get to do that yourself. I just want to give you a little bit of information and evidence to help you make your own decisions. So thanks for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. And if you're a Patreon supporter, I want to give you an extra big thank you. And remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.